Greetings in Christ. My name is Bishop Nectarios. I'm a bishop of the Orthodox Patriarchate of Nations. For those of you who have been following me, you probably noticed that there hasn't been any videos for a week or so. And that's because with everything that's been going on, I've been very upset by what's been happening in the news. The lockdown of DC, the National Guard all over the place, ideology screenings, a new Capitol Police Force, which if that doesn't scream secret police, I don't know what does. Um, you know, I was so upset by everything that was happening and going on. I needed to take a step back because I am just getting vicious about this. And there's a time and place for you to stand up and say, I don't believe this is right. And there's a time and place for you to become quiet, consider what you're up to, and pick and choose your battles, especially if you can't change it or if no one will listen when you try to tell them. Now, here's what I will say. Our Constitution guarantees us freedom. And when a government force attempts to impede those freedoms, such as the right to liberty, and arresting Trump supporters for carrying firearms in public is blatantly illegal because they have the right to carry firearms in public. What they're doing is they're making a stance, a threat, saying we're in power, we have control, and we have military force, so back off. I don't know if you realize what country this is, but America never takes threats very well. So, given all of these events, ideology screenings and such, the attempt to characterize every single Trump supporter as a white supremacist, how about the blacks that support him and the Latinos that support him and the natives that support him too? Are they all white supremacists too? But while we're engaging in fantasy time and listening to the political rhetoric of one political party, it starts to have a corrosive effect upon your spirit. Pretty soon, all you are able to talk about is politics, and you start to ignore all the other wonderful things in your life. Now, most of the people I know are fairly convinced that this is some attempt at a military dictatorship. It follows in history because the Greeks themselves were very critical of democracy because they made it clear that it is always followed by a dictatorship. They called it the worst form of government. That being said, I don't believe we're going into a military dictatorship. I believe we're a nation in decline. I hear their points. They say the man who fudged the election and got all of these fake votes needs to protect himself. I mean, after all, if all these people wanted him in there, why do you need such a strong reaction to defend yourself? Might it be that you fudged a little bit on the numbers? That being said, this channel was designed to discuss religious topics. I had to get this out of my system because, to a certain extent, that corrosive nature, if you don't say it and get it out, it eats you. But obsessing over it becomes a problem. It lacks compassion. And where things are going currently in our culture, lack forgiveness and lack mercy. All these people are calling for a civil conflict. And it's because they're largely spoiled. You have lived in a country which has been largely free of military conflict for a very long time. You see military conflicts on the news, and you see action movies where our soldiers are heroic and facing off against the valiant efforts. The terrorists are there and our heroic soldiers are in battle, and even soldiers will tell you that's more propaganda piece. It doesn't really have a basis in reality. They'll tell you if you ask what it's really like. They'll tell you. for historical purposes, just about every time there is a civil conflict, the people lose access to running water, to power, because those are the first things that are hit. They lose access to most of their freedoms, if not all of their freedoms. There start to become more stringent checkpoints and facilities as they're looking to root out rebels. Your children will be in interlocking fields of fire, and most of those calling for this revolution business are keyboard warriors, not real ones. Everyone thinks it's going to be this noble struggle, and it's not. It's not. You're going to witness brother killing brother. You're going to witness fathers and sons being driven apart. You're going to witness destruction and pain like you have never known. And you wouldn't know unless you had the ability to learn from people or to go overseas and see it for yourself what happened. You have to make a decision right now on what's more important. Now, I agree that you cannot exchange justice and order for lawlessness and tyranny. However, I also strongly believe that you cannot sacrifice freedom in the name of order and peace. My personal advice is that you need to deal with the reality in front of you. You have family of yours to take care of. You have a community to be a part of. Because by the time you realize what I'm telling you is true, it's going to be too late. And the suffering that people are going to be exchanging and bringing aren't going to have the effect that you think it is. It's not going to be a heroic stand. It's going to be nasty and vicious and bloody. And now is the time for us to find a way around what everyone is calling for. It's a time for us to find peace. I need for you guys to consider this. I need for you guys to consider the effects of your words and your actions, not just on yourself, but the validation it gives to those people who want this kind of carnage. Because if you can't, then, you're going to try to argue with a rebel when they try to take what's yours in support of the cause? Are you going to argue with a government person when they try to do the exact same thing? Or how about if your neighbor reports you as a rebel when you're not, and then you get arrested and you get thrown in prison, and because you're considered a domestic terrorist, you're not afforded such things as an attorney, you're not afforded such things as due process, and you're not afforded the right to a trial by jury either. Because that's what's going to happen. People are going to turn on other people. And if you think people are nasty now, wait until the food stops being delivered to active war zones. Wait until you can't feed your family. People will literally eat each other. This video is my attempt to try to encourage people to make peace and to be at peace. Because frankly, what most of you are calling for is destructive, and it's going to wreck everything we've ever accomplished. And when we fall, we're never going to raise to the heights we used to be at again. Ever. No nation, aside from, I think, Russia, and even then there's some sort of question about that, has ever risen from the ashes. Once a great nation has fallen, it's fallen, and that's that. And now we have to make the decisions that affect everyone around us, which I keep coming back to because it is a decision. Are you for peace or are you for conflict? If you're for conflict, then your decision's made. And there's not much I can do to help you. But if you're for peace, then the question becomes, to what degree are you for peace? If everyone is right and they continue in this vein of being a dictatorship and they lock down more places and they deploy more guardsmen to control everything. Fine, whatever, I get that. You don't want to become a military dictatorship. I can understand why you would do what you do, although I still don't agree with it, for the same reasons I just spent. Weird word. Anyway, I don't know if any of this is going to make any sense to you, the way it does to me. I don't know if me telling you that peace is always the preferred option, that you can get far more from a negotiating table than you can from a military conflict. Now, while I'm talking about peace and advising for peace, I'm also advising you that you need to consider to what extent you're willing to deal with this. Is this the first time in our history that people have honestly considered leaving this country, becoming refugees in another country? I know that there's plenty of expats in other countries who got sick of the BS. They saw what was happening and they left. Is that what we want the final heritage of our nation to be? Are we a nation of people that decide to essentially implode upon ourselves, start fighting ourselves, and dissolve into nothing? Now, I'm in my 30s. When I was a kid, this stuff had not even begun. The America I knew growing up was vastly different than what we're seeing now. And frankly, it makes me sick to my stomach that this is happening. And the fact that I can't do anything about it even more so upsets me. So what I'm doing is I'm talking to you. I'm trying to advise people to be at peace, but to not allow themselves to be butchered. I'm trying to advise people to follow the law, and I mean the law, the Constitution. Any law that's passed that is in violation of the Constitution is an illegal law. You can look that up for yourself. The Constitution is higher than state and federal law. Now, aside from that Constitution, the government has the right to govern. They have every right. What they don't have the right to do is supplant the freedoms that are guaranteed by constitutional law. However, if this worst came to worst, rights don't mean anything next to the man who has the guys with weapons at his side, because he'll make the rules. Right now, you think they really care what Trump supporters say, with all those guardsmen standing watch? No. They're scared. And if you back someone into a wall and you scare them, it's not going to be okay. Anyone you know, if they get scared, they're either going to run or fight. And they have the resources to fight. So is now really the time that you want to push people into a conflict that you may not win? How do you want it to wind down? Do you want your children to live in a quagmire of hell that will never stop? Or do you want to live in peace? It's up to you. Just like it's always been. For me, as angry as I am at what's going on, I'm going to continue to advocate for peace. I'm going to advocate to keep our nation united, because it isn't like we have countries that want to see our destruction avidly. Is it? If you're joining the channel for the first time, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps our channel out tremendously. Aside from the series of political videos I've done lately, the goal of this channel really is to discuss topics of religion. And there are subtopics about my passion for martial arts and my passion for cooking. So, we're going to have a variety of videos coming out, a variety of topics. And I'm sorry that I took some time away from y'all, but I needed to really consider what it is that I'm doing, thinking, saying, encouraging other people to do, so that I can be at peace my own self, so that I can live in a manner that when I go before my master in heaven, I will always find him to be approving. And nowhere in Scripture does it say that if you're upset, call for, anger and hate and rage. It's a night and day difference. So I have to literally refocus myself. If you go online, you'll find pictures of Orthodox priests that stand between the line of police and rioters. They call for peace always. They don't want people to get hurt. I don't want people to get hurt. None of the Orthodox clergy through the ages wanted death and destruction. They wanted peace and love, kindness, charity, compassion. They wanted people to work well with each other, to be in harmony with one another. So that's it for today. Thanks for letting me vent a little bit. I hope this video helps. Now, an assignment for you if you wish. In the comments below, why don't you tell me what you think is going to happen with the current state of events? And if you think peace is still possible, because I think it is. I think you need to back away and let them cool off for a minute because they're scared, and when you're scared you fight or you run, and they can fight. Also with that, if you think you have a solution, and I mean a real solution, not everyone needs to get together and hug, put it down in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the best way for us to live in harmony with others, the way to avert the current state of mess that we're living in. And yeah, I keep saying that's it for today. Take care and God bless.